Nobody, and I mean nobody, expected Rihanna to break the internet like this tonight. Not the fans, not the gossip blogs, not the industry insiders who always think they see everything coming. But when she pressed post on that cryptic message, the world flipped upside down in seconds. Because whatever she just unleashed wasn't subtle, wasn't random, and definitely wasn't a coincidence. It was a bomb. A digital nuke detonating right on top of the three most talked about men in hip-hop's modern era, Drake, Rocky, and Travis. And the moment her message went live, it felt like the entire celebrity universe snapped in half. People were screaming, "No way this is about Drake. Why did she tag that song?" Rocky's face when he sees this OMG. Travis is DONEE. And the wildest part? Rihanna didn't reveal any details. She didn't call anyone out by name. She didn't drag, expose, or accuse. She just dropped one shocking sentence, and it was enough to tear the internet to pieces. Some people turn into strangers when you rise higher than their expectations. That was it. No clarification, no follow-up, no explanation, but the timing, the symbolism, the exact way she posted it. Everyone instantly knew this wasn't a random quote. This wasn't aesthetic mood board energy. This wasn't just vibing. This was a message with a target, or maybe three. Within minutes, Team Drake began trending. Team Rocky began trending. Team Travis exploded even harder. Fan bases were at war, influencers were dissecting every punctuation mark, and analysts were claiming the industry was about to experience a tectonic shift. Because Rihanna doesn't post like this unless something major is happening behind the scenes. Something personal, something explosive, something that didn't just shake her world. It threatened to end alliances, end friendships, end unspoken peace agreements that have kept hip-hop balanced for years. And while fans argued, cried, panicked, and theorized, one thing became terrifyingly clear. Rihanna didn't just light a match. She tipped over the entire gasoline can. And the firestorm that's coming next, it might just end everything Drake, Rocky, and Travis have built forever. Long before Rihanna pressed that post button, long before the fan wars lit up timelines, long before Drake's name even started trending next to Rocky and Travis, there were already quiet storms gathering behind the scenes. Storms nobody noticed because the celebrity world has always been good at hiding its cracks behind polished smiles and perfectly lit photos. But cracks were forming, slowly, silently, relentlessly. And if you look back, if you rewind the story far enough, you can see the tension threading through moments the world thought were harmless. It didn't start with a fight. It didn't start with a breakup. It didn't start with a single argument. It started with success, Rihanna's success. Every new milestone she hit, every empire she built, every door she kicked down shifted the energy around her. Because Rihanna wasn't just a star, she became an institution, a force, a universe moving on its own axis. And whenever someone grows that powerful, the people around them, friends, collaborators, former flings, current partners, and rivals, start behaving differently. Some cheer louder, some disappear quietly, some become inspired, some become intimidated, some pretend to support while secretly resenting. And some, they reposition themselves, hoping to latch onto the glow without being burned by it. And this is where the tension began. Drake and Rihanna had always shared an energy the world loved to romanticize. Chemistry, history, nostalgia, a bond you couldn't categorize but also couldn't deny. But as Rihanna's empire expanded, something changed. Drake wanted to celebrate her, but he also wanted to be part of the narrative. And somewhere along that journey, lines blurred, overstepped, twisted, and rewrote themselves. People close to the situation whispered about moments that never made headlines. Drake asking questions he didn't need answers to. Drake appearing in spaces Rihanna didn't invite him into. Drake offering help she never asked for, then acting wounded when she didn't take it. His intentions weren't sinister, they were emotional. But emotional energy can turn messy fast when one person evolves at a speed the other isn't keeping up with. Then there was Rocky, Rihanna's foundation, her calm space, her comfort zone. The world adored them together, the effortless aesthetic, the private jokes, the unmatched vibe. But even in the most beautiful relationships, insecurities don't just vanish. They hide, they settle, they wait. Rocky loved her fiercely, but loving a powerhouse comes with shadows, and people around them started whispering things he never asked to hear. She's bigger than you now. She's growing faster than you. Are you sure she still needs you? Those weren't his thoughts, those weren't his fears, but when enough people plant the same seed, it grows roots. And somewhere along the way, Rocky began protecting Rihanna so aggressively, so intensely, that it stopped looking like loyalty and started looking like fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being overshadowed, fear of someone else stepping back into a storyline he thought was closed forever. And that someone else, Travis. Travis and Rihanna never had a messy history, but they had a timing problem, a moment in life where things didn't align. And sometimes, unresolved timing becomes unresolved energy. They existed in a strange space between past connection and what-if memory, and that alone was enough to stir jealousy in the wrong direction. The industry is small. Whispers spread fast, a comment here, a studio story there, a misinterpreted glance, a resurfaced clip. Individually harmless, collectively dangerous, and then things got worse. 3 different narratives began swirling behind closed doors, not public stories, private ones, stories told in confidence, stories told in ego, stories told in frustration, stories told late at night when emotions run higher than logic. From Drake's circle, she's changed, she's colder, she's shutting people out. From Rocky's circle, she's surrounded by people who don't want her relationship to win. From Travis's circle, she never got closure, maybe he didn't either. 3 separate narratives, 3 separate groups, 3 separate agendas. None of them came from Rihanna herself, but all of them circled around her like storms waiting to collide. And as Rihanna's empire grew, music, beauty, fashion, motherhood, philanthropy, she began noticing something deeply unsettling. People she once trusted weren't looking at her with the same eyes anymore. Some looked threatened. Some looked entitled. Some looked confused by her evolution. Some looked like they were waiting for her to trip. Some looked like they were hoping they could claim her next move as their influence. And Rihanna, being who she is, internalized none of it until the moment it became impossible to ignore. She started hearing from her team, "He said you've changed. He said he's disappointed. He said you used to be different. He said he feels pushed out." The he, of course, changed depending on the day. Sometimes it was Drake, sometimes it was Rocky, sometimes it was Travis. But then came the breaking point, the moment Rihanna realized these narratives weren't isolated rumors. They were patterns. Patterns made by men who weren't communicating with her, they were communicating about her. Behind her back, in private rooms, over drinks, in studios, with friends who then carried those conversations straight to her doorstep. Rihanna didn't explode immediately, she didn't clap back, she didn't confront anyone, she didn't unfollow or unfollow back. She watched, she listened, she waited. And with every new piece of information, Rihanna saw a picture forming. A picture she didn't like. A picture where the men around her were slowly turning her success into their insecurity, where her evolution became the thing that changed her, not because she was different, but because they were uncomfortable. And that's when the emotional pressure hit its peak. 3 men, 3 stories, 3 energies orbiting her name for years. And then the final trigger, someone still unidentified brought Rihanna a screenshot of a conversation she wasn't supposed to see, a conversation between 2 people she trusted, a conversation speculating about her without ever seeking to understand her. A conversation full of assumptions, ego, jealousy, and quiet resentment. And in that moment, Rihanna didn't feel angry. She felt done. Done with narratives, done with whispers, done with emotional entitlement. Done with men who wanted access to her glow without respecting its power. So she did the most Rihanna thing possible. She didn't argue. She didn't explain. She didn't justify. She simply dropped one line on social media. A line sharp enough to cut through years of tension. A line unmistakably directed at someone who underestimated her. A line the world is still trying to decode. And the truth is, that line wasn't meant for the fans. It wasn't meant for the blogs. It wasn't meant for speculation. It was meant for the 3 men who knew exactly what she was talking about. Because Rihanna didn't just post a quote. She delivered a warning. The moment Rihanna's cryptic line hit the internet, everything that had been simmering quietly behind the scenes finally boiled over. It was as if years of unspoken tension between Drake, Rocky, and Travis suddenly detonated in a chain reaction none of them were emotionally prepared for. And here's the craziest part. Rihanna didn't even name anyone, she didn't tag them, she didn't shade them directly, she didn't reference a single event. But the men involved, they knew. They knew exactly who that message was for. And that's why all 3 reacted instantly, but in completely different, chaotic ways. Drake was the first one to panic, not publicly, but internally. His circle immediately reported how he started pacing around the studio, asking over and over, "She didn't mean me, right? Wait, why would she post that now? Did someone say something to her? Do you think she's talking about that night?" His team could barely answer because they had no idea which night he meant. Drake had a long list of memories that collided with Rihanna's version of history, and every single one seemed to resurface at once. And the deeper reality? Drake had been holding onto old emotional wounds that Rihanna had moved on from years ago. But one ambiguous sentence from her was enough to reopen every door he'd tried to close. Meanwhile, Rocky reacted in the opposite way. He didn't panic. He didn't overthink. He didn't start questioning his past choices. He got defensive, immediately, aggressively, instinctively defensive. His friends described him that night as tight-jawed, silent, replaying the same screenshot over and over like he was decoding something. He didn't ask questions. He didn't ask for clarification. Instead, he muttered one sentence under his breath. "Somebody's trying to get between us." Rocky wasn't confused by Rihanna's message. He wasn't shaken. He was angry not at her, but at whoever he believed was fueling her frustrations. And in Rocky's mind, there was one person who fit that description perfectly. Drake. The history, the tension, the rivalry the world always pretended wasn't there, the looks exchanged at award shows, the subtle comments, the unspoken claims on Rihanna's narrative. It didn't matter whether Rihanna meant Drake or not. In Rocky's head, the target was already locked in, which brings us to Travis. Travis didn't panic like Drake. He didn't get defensive like Rocky. He got concerned. Travis has always been intensely private, especially about Rihanna. He never publicly chased clout off her name. He never played the history card. He never tried to stake a claim in something that wasn't his. But when he saw her message, something hit him in the gut, something old and unresolved. Because out of the three men, Travis was the only one carrying a quiet regret that never made it to the blogs. A moment from years ago, a conversation that wasn't handled well, a bond that slipped through his fingers because neither of them had the courage to articulate what they really felt. And so when he saw Rihanna's post, he whispered to one of his closest friends, "Did I hurt her without realizing it?" The friend didn't know what to say, because even he didn't know which part of the past Travis was referring to. Three men, three different histories with Rihanna. Three emotional reactions to the same 12-word post. And all three of them believed, deeply, irrationally, instinctively, that Rihanna was talking about them. That was the moment the drama turned nuclear. Because when three powerful men believe they're being subtly accused by the same woman, they don't stay quiet. They move. And the first major move came from Drake. Within hours, he reached out to someone in Rihanna's camp, not directly, but through a mutual friend. He wanted to know what she meant, who she meant, why she meant it, and whether she had heard something distorted. He wasn't aggressive. He wasn't defensive. He was emotional. But here's where everything went sideways. The message didn't stay private. Someone in the chain leaked it, not the contents, but the fact that Drake was pressing for clarity. The phrasing alone made Drake look guilty, worried, shaken. Social media spiraled. Why is he freaking out? Drake must know he did something. He's exposed himself without her even trying. The fire was already burning. But then Rocky found out Drake had reached out to Rihanna's circle. And that ignited the second explosion. Rocky was furious, not because Drake wanted answers, but because he felt Drake was inserting himself into Rihanna's emotional space without permission. To Rocky, that wasn't concern. It was violation, and Rocky sent a message of his own, not to Rihanna, not to the public, but directly to someone in Drake's crew. He needs to stay out of our situation. That message wasn't kept private either. It leaked, fast. And this time the wording sounded like a declaration of war. Suddenly the timeline was screaming, Rocky and Drake beef is real. This is about to get messy. Rihanna started a civil war. But the real twist came from Travis. He did something nobody expected. He reached out to Drake. Not to cuss him out, not to join Rocky's side, not to escalate. He wanted clarity. Travis asked Drake, did she mean us, all of us, or just one of us? That question was innocent, almost too honest. But Drake didn't answer directly. He said, I think someone got in her ear. And that was the spark. Because if someone got in her ear, then someone was manipulating Rihanna's emotions. Someone was influencing the narrative. Someone was benefiting from the tension between the three men. But WHO? Travis asked the same question. Who is feeding her information? Drake didn't respond. Not because he didn't know, but because the moment he typed a name, any name, that message would leak too. Meanwhile, Rocky was talking to his people, saying, if someone is twisting things, they better pray she doesn't expose them. 3 private conversations. 3 different angles, 3 spiraling narratives, and all 3 men were now convinced someone behind the scenes was instigating the mess. But the twist, they weren't wrong. Because while they were turning on each other, while fans were screaming, while blogs were dragging Drake, Rocky, and Travis into the same fire, Rihanna was silent. Silent because she wasn't angry. Silent because she wasn't confused. Silent because she wasn't reacting. She was observing, watching how each man responded without her giving them any details, watching who panicked, who stayed calm, who overreacted, who internalized guilt, who tried to gain access to her through back channels, who exposed their insecurity the moment they felt implicated. And the most shocking part, Rihanna didn't post that line for any of them. Not Drake, not Rocky, not Travis. Her message was aimed at someone completely different, someone behind the scenes, someone quietly manipulating all 3 men, someone who'd been stirring tension for MONTHS, someone who would gain the most if the relationships between these 4 superstars collapsed entirely. But the men didn't know that. They assumed guilt. They projected fear. They exposed pressure points Rihanna didn't even know existed until she watched them unfold in real time. And now, the emotional battlefield looked like this. Drake thought Rocky was turning Rihanna against him. Rocky thought Drake was trying to worm his way back into her narrative. Travis thought he had hurt Rihanna years ago without realizing it, and that she was finally done holding it in. All while Rihanna knew the truth, none of this started with her. None of this was her problem. None of this needed to explode. But now that it had exploded, Rihanna was ready to address the chaos, and when she finally speaks, it's going to end someone's narrative forever. The chaos didn't calm down after the first wave. It expanded, multiplied, mutated into something none of them expected. Because once the internet smelled blood, once the blog sensed a storyline, once fans began connecting dots that didn't even exist, everything spiraled into a storm no one could control. And the center of that storm, three men who thought Rihanna was calling them out individually, not realizing she was watching them expose themselves. Drake thought Rocky was moving aggressively behind the scenes. Rocky thought Drake was trying to infiltrate their relationship. Travis thought the past had finally caught up to him. But the public was convinced Rihanna was done with all three of them, and the internet treated her cryptic post like a spiritual awakening. People tweeted, "She ended Drake again without even mentioning him. Rocky better hold on tight because that caption was not friendly. That message SCREAMS Travis energy," and the memes didn't stop. But behind all the jokes and theories, something far more sinister was happening. Someone was feeding the fire. Little leaks started appearing online, screenshots, voice notes, private messages, all claiming to be from insiders close to Rihanna, Drake, Rocky, or Travis. None of them were confirmed, none were verified, but they were strategic. Each leak was perfectly timed to intensify tension between the men. Each leak was structured to make the others paranoid. Each leak played into insecurities none of them wanted exposed. The first leak claimed Drake felt betrayed by something Rocky said about him. The second leak implied Travis sent Rihanna a long emotional message years ago. The third leak suggested Rocky had confronted someone behind the scenes just weeks before Rihanna's post. None of these leaks could be proven, but all three men saw them. And that is when the meltdown truly began. Drake began asking his team, "Why does Rocky keep popping up in these leaks? Who keeps mentioning my name in his camp? Why are they even talking about me?" Rocky, after seeing another leak, muttered, "Someone is trying to make me react. They want me to snap publicly so it looks like I'm the villain. They're trying to bait me." And Travis, he saw a fake conversation suggesting he'd been quietly watching Rihanna's career moves, and he spiraled. He told a friend, "They're painting me into something I'm not. Someone wants me in this drama even though I've stayed out of the narrative." But the deeper twist, none of these men were asking the real question: who benefits from this? Because Rihanna wasn't leaking anything. Rihanna's team wasn't speaking. Rihanna's circle wasn't entertaining interviews. So who exactly kept pushing these timed drops? The answer came from the most unexpected place. A producer, someone who had worked with multiple artists connected to the situation, reached out to a gossip blog anonymously. His message was simple: "You're all looking at the wrong people. This isn't coming from the artists. It's coming from someone who profits off the chaos." The blog didn't publish the name, they published the warning, and suddenly fans started looking deeper. Was it a PR strategist, a jealous industry insider, a former friend, a rival camp, a label employee trying to stir drama between the biggest names in music? The theories were insane, but none compared to what happened next. Because just when the internet thought the situation couldn't get any messier, Rihanna made a move. She didn't post a selfie, she didn't drop a story, she didn't address the speculation. She did something worse, she went silent. The kind of silence that changes the temperature in a room. The kind of silence that means someone is preparing. The kind of silence that makes people who know her start to panic. One insider told a journalist, "When Rihanna goes quiet, something big is coming." That statement alone sent her fanbase into meltdown. Meanwhile, Drake, Rocky, and Travis were all receiving contradictory information from people who claimed to be close to Rihanna. One person told Drake, "She's hurt by something you said years ago." Another person told Rocky, "She feels you're not protecting her energy enough." Another told Travis, "She's disappointed you never addressed the past." All lies, all designed to pull them apart, all engineered to inflame old insecurities. Someone was playing three separate games at the same time. But the true breaking point came on a night none of them expected. A private industry dinner, small, exclusive, invitation only, brought all three men into the same room. Not planned, not intentional, not strategic, coincidental. The universe decided to be chaotic. The tension in the room was so thick people described it as electric. Drake walked in with a guarded look. Rocky walked in looking ready to stand his ground. Travis walked in trying to maintain composure. None said a word to each other. None acknowledged the other's presence. Until someone, an oblivious mutual friend, said, "Yo, y'all seen Rihanna's post today?" All three heads snapped up at once, and the friend froze, because the way they all reacted made it clear. They all believed the post was about them. The silence that followed was suffocating. Drake finally broke it quietly. "So, who's been talking?" Rocky replied without hesitation. "Why you asking me?" Travis added. "It's not me causing this." The friend realized instantly he'd accidentally triggered something deep. 3 men, 1 woman. A web of insecurity, pride, ego, history, unresolved tension. But the real twist, someone else at that dinner was watching. Someone who had been stirring this drama from the beginning. The instigator, the manipulator, the whisperer, the shadow force fanning the flames. And when Drake, Rocky, and Travis stepped outside one by one to collect their thoughts, that person made a call. A call that would change everything. A call that was overheard by someone who recorded it and later leaked it. A chilling 6-word sentence. "It's working. They're tearing themselves apart." At that moment, the truth became clear. This drama wasn't random. It wasn't emotional. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't even about Rihanna. Someone wanted to break the relationships between these 3 men. Someone wanted to fracture the ecosystem around Rihanna. Someone wanted to destabilize the entire network for their own gain. But who and why? That answer was coming sooner than they thought. Because after days of silence, after watching everything from the sidelines, after observing how all 3 men responded without knowing the truth, Rihanna finally made a decision. She wasn't going to address the drama privately. She wasn't going to let the lies keep circulating. She wasn't going to let men battle each other over a narrative she never created. She was going to confront all 3 at once. And when she did, the person behind this entire operation would be exposed, whether they wanted to be or not. The silence before Rihanna's next move didn't feel normal. It didn't feel like avoidance. It didn't feel like distance. It felt intentional, calculated, like she had stepped back just far enough to let the 3 men destroy their own alibis with panic while she assembled something far more powerful than a clapback. The truth. Because Rihanna wasn't confused. She wasn't emotional. She wasn't overwhelmed. She was watching. Watching how Drake spiraled into old wounds. Watching how Rocky went into protective aggression. Watching how Travis started blaming himself for history he didn't even fully understand. And most importantly, watching the person behind all of this lose control. Because the instigator, the shadowy voice whispering in circles, dropping hints, leaking messages, twisting stories, never expected the drama to escalate this far. They expected tension, they expected insecurity, they expected chaos. What they didn't expect was for Rihanna to go silent. Her silence scared them because silence is unpredictable. Silence is strategy. Silence is preparation. And so the instigator began panicking. They sent new messages behind the scenes. She's mad at him. She's disappointed in him. She's ending it with him. She feels betrayed by all 3. They tried to keep the fire alive. They tried to keep the men spiraling. They tried to keep the confusion deep enough that Rihanna couldn't untangle it. But Rihanna already had. And the moment she decided to confront the situation, she did it with the kind of precision only she could pull off. She invited all 3 men, Drake, Rocky, and Travis, to a private meeting. No details, no explanation, no context. Just one message delivered through a neutral mutual contact. "Rihanna wants to talk. All 3 of you, tomorrow. Don't be late." The reactions were immediate and telling. Drake froze. His heart dropped into his stomach. He asked all 3 of us at once, more than 5 times. Rocky clenched his jaw and said, "Good. Let's settle this face to face." Travis whispered, "This is about to get bad, isn't it?" Each man thought they were the reason she called the meeting. None of them realized that Rihanna wasn't confronting them. She was about to expose someone else entirely. When the day came, the 3 men arrived separately, each emotionally tense, each mentally replaying everything they thought they'd done wrong. But they weren't prepared for what they walked into. A quiet room, dim lighting, no cameras, no assistants, no distractions, just Rihanna sitting at the center of the room, calm, collected, unreadable. The energy was suffocating. She didn't yell. She didn't lash out. She didn't accuse. She started with 6 words. "One of you is being manipulated." The room stiffened instantly. Drake blinked hard. Rocky straightened his posture. Travis exhaled slowly. She continued, "And the person doing it has been in contact with all 3 of you." That sentence hit the room like a body blow. Drake whispered, "So you're saying someone played all of us?" Rihanna nodded. "Not played, controlled." Rocky leaned forward. "Who? Say the name." Rihanna looked at him direct, unwavering. "I will. But you need to hear how deep it goes first." Then she revealed something none of them expected. She had been quietly contacting people too. She had been asking questions. She had been checking timelines. She had been comparing conversations. And every single road led back to one person, someone who floated between the three men effortlessly, someone who worked in proximity to multiple teams, someone who loved being the connector, someone who thrived off being involved in everything while pretending to be neutral, a behind-the-scenes industry strategist, someone whose entire job was to manage narratives, handle communication, and smooth over conflicts, someone who fed Drake old emotional memories to keep him attached, fed Rocky subtle insecurities to make him hyperprotective, fed Travis old speculation so he'd carry guilt that wasn't his, someone who whispered three completely different versions of the truth to three completely different men to get three completely different reactions. Why? Because chaos creates opportunity, and this strategist wanted one thing: to elevate themselves into Rihanna's inner circle as the hero who helped her through the storm. But the twist: Rihanna never needed help, she needed clarity. And she found it. As she laid out the timeline, the men's faces changed one by one. Drake's face dropped when he realized the things he'd been told Rihanna felt. She never actually said. Rocky's anger turned ice cold when he learned the voice fueling his defensiveness wasn't Rihanna's. It was someone pretending to protect him. Travis went silent entirely when he discovered the leaked messages tying him to Rihanna emotionally were manufactured to drag him into the narrative. It was the perfect manipulation: turn the men against themselves, turn them against each other, turn them into emotional weapons, then swoop in as the fixer. But the strategist underestimated one thing: Rihanna sees everything. And before the men could even respond, Rihanna dropped the final bomb. "I know exactly who did it, and I have the receipts." The room froze because this wasn't speculation, this wasn't assumption, this wasn't paranoia. She had proof. Screenshots, audio, forwarded messages, voice memos, timelines, contradictions, receipts the strategist never expected to be traced back to them. Drake sat back in disbelief. "He was playing on my feelings." Rocky clenched his fists. "He tried to turn us against each other." Travis shook his head. "He dragged me into something I wasn't even part of." But Rihanna didn't flinch. She stood up, placed her phone on the table, and said, "You're all going to hear what he said about each of you." Because the strategist hadn't just manipulated the men, he'd spoken about them, against them, mocked them, used their vulnerabilities to create drama he could capitalize on later. The men braced themselves because the next part would end the strategist's entire career. Forever, the room was silent in a way that didn't feel peaceful, it felt dangerous. Three men sat there, each one breathing carefully, waiting for Rihanna to hit play on the audio that would expose everything. Drake's knee bounced uncontrollably. Rocky cracked his knuckles, jaw tense. Travis kept rubbing the back of his neck, eyes fixed on the floor like he wasn't sure he was ready for what was coming. Rihanna didn't hesitate. She pressed play. A voice filled the room, calm, strategic, manipulative. The voice of the man who had been controlling the entire situation from the shadows. A master puppeteer disguised as a friend, a connector, a peacemaker. "Drake is emotional, feed into that. Tell him she still thinks about him sometimes." Drake's eyes widened. His mouth dropped open. He whispered, that's not what you said. He told me you said that." Rihanna didn't blink. "I never said that. Not even once." The audio continued. "Rocky is protective, twist that, tell him people are doubting their relationship. He'll overreact." Rocky sat up straight, fury boiling under his skin. "That's exactly what he said to me," Rocky muttered, word for word. And then came Travis's part. "Travis is quiet. He keeps things inside, use his past. Tell him Rihanna has unresolved feelings. He'll withdraw. And withdrawn men are easier to manipulate." Travis froze. He whispered, barely audible, "That's the exact message I got." The strategist had played all three men like chess pieces. Pawn, knight, rook. Each one moved precisely where the strategist wanted them to go. The audio continued. "He doesn't need them to hate her. He just needs them to doubt her. Doubt creates silence. Silence creates distance. Distance creates opportunity." Drake ran a hand over his face. "This dude, he studied us." Rocky slammed his fist on the table. "And he did all of this for what? Clout? Access? A job?" Travis shook his head slowly. "No, people don't mastermind something this detailed for just clout. He wanted something bigger." And Rihanna confirmed it. "He wanted a seat beside me, permanently. He wanted to be the one I trusted. He wanted to control the narrative around me so that I'd see him as the person fixing everything." She locked eyes with the men, one by one. "He orchestrated chaos so he could walk in and look like peace." That sentence hit hard. Because that's exactly what he did. He created confusion so he could appear necessary. He created division so he could appear wise. He created tension so he could appear as the only one calm enough to help. Classic manipulation. Classic opportunism. Classic ego disguised as loyalty. Drake clenched his jaw. "I should have noticed it sooner." Rocky cracked his knuckles again. I should have never listened to him, Travis exhaled. I should have never let him get in my head. But Rihanna shook her head firmly. No, he's been doing this for years, not just with you, with artists, with teams, with labels. With everyone. And that was the second twist, the part none of them were prepared for. This strategist wasn't a random figure. He wasn't new. He wasn't small. He was someone who had been climbing silently behind the scenes, using other people's insecurities as stepping stones. He had ties everywhere, connections everywhere, influence everywhere. The audio kept playing. This time, the strategist was talking to someone else, probably a partner in the scheme. Rihanna's rise is disrupting everything. Men don't know how to navigate her growth, use their egos against them. It'll fracture naturally. Once she's isolated, she'll need a new strategist, me. Rocky stood up abruptly, pacing. He wanted her isolated. He wanted people to fall off. He wanted us to destroy our own relationships with her. Drake muttered, bro, he wanted to replace her entire circle. Travis swallowed hard. He wanted her alone. Rihanna nodded. And that's exactly why I stepped back. The moment I realized someone was trying to fracture every emotional tie I had, I knew I needed to see who would break, who would stay, and who would show their true intentions. The men looked shaken. Because for the first time since this started, they understood Rihanna's cryptic post wasn't aimed at them. It was aimed at HIM, the instigator, the operator, the manipulator, but it wasn't over. Rihanna pressed play again, the final part of the recording. This time, the strategist's voice sounded triumphant. When she finally collapses under the weight of all this emotional tension, I'll be right there to guide her. She won't trust Drake. Rocky will be angry, Travis will retreat, and she'll lose the ability to distinguish who betrayed her and who didn't. That's when I move in. None of the men spoke. They couldn't, because the strategist hadn't just manipulated them. He had tried to emotionally isolate Rihanna, to break her trust, break her support system, break her connections, all so he could replace them. Finally, Rihanna ended the recording. Then she said the words nobody expected. He didn't just betray me, he betrayed all of us. Drake nodded slowly. Rocky exhaled sharply. Travis whispered, so what now? Rihanna leaned forward, eyes steady, voice calm but powerful. Now we end him, not physically. Not violently, but professionally, socially, reputationally, strategically. Because once the recording leaked, his entire career would crumble. No more clients, no more trust, no more influence, no more manipulation. But then came the final plot twist, the one that shook the room to its core. Rihanna revealed that the strategist wasn't working alone. There was one more person in their circle, someone close, someone they all knew, someone who benefited the most from the chaos, someone whose identity she would expose publicly. Soon, and she ended the meeting with one chilling line. When the truth comes out, all of your names will be cleared, but theirs. They'll never recover. And now we're standing at the edge of the biggest celebrity shakeup of the year. A story that didn't just expose one manipulator, didn't just fracture the trust between three of the biggest names in music, didn't just push Rihanna to her breaking point. It revealed a mastermind operating in the shadows, playing with emotions, twisting narratives, and positioning himself to take control of Rihanna's entire inner circle. But the real shock, he wasn't working alone. Rihanna's final words, "There's one more person and they'll never recover," have left the entire industry frozen. Because if one strategist could manipulate Drake, Rocky, and Travis this deeply, imagine what two people working together could accomplish. And now everyone is asking, who is the second traitor? Is it someone in her creative team, someone in one of their crews, a mutual friend, a business partner, a behind-the-scenes advisor with influence over all four? Whoever it is, they've infiltrated places no outsider should ever reach, and Rihanna is done protecting them. So right now, before the next episode drops, before receipts hit the internet, before Rihanna exposes the second mastermind live, I need you to jump into the comments and answer these questions. Fire, who do you think the second traitor is? Fire, which clue made you suspect them? Fire, do you think Drake, Rocky, or Travis already know the name? Fire, and who do you think will react the most when the truth comes out? Because the next reveal won't just be a plot twist, it's going to end someone's entire reputation. And if you don't want to miss the moment Rihanna drops the name, if you want the full inside breakdown, if you want every detail the blogs are too scared to say, hit like, hit subscribe, turn on all notifications. Because the very second Rihanna exposes the final mastermind, the moment she drops the receipts that will shake the whole industry, the moment the truth detonates and the entire internet erupts, I'll be right here with the breakdown, the analysis, the timeline, the twist, and the fallout. This wasn't just drama, this was a setup. This was a betrayal. This was a game. And the next move, it belongs to Rihanna. Get ready. The final reveal is coming, and the person behind it is not ready for what happens when Rihanna speaks.